Hi everyone, welcome to School of Scarlet. I'm so happy to be here with you today. So today I'm going to be talking about why I left teaching in the public school system. I'm going to share with you a broad overview of my experience in the education system, which is a pretty broad one. So I'm going to share that with you here today. And I'm going to share with you the final straws, some of the things that really just sent me over the edge and where I will just not return to working in a public school any longer. So I have been working in a public school up until now. So I will be sharing with you that. And one of the reasons that I'm able to make this video now is because I no longer will be working at any schools. I don't plan to work at any schools relating to the public education system, and I'll share with you here why. But because of that, now I can speak out. Believe it or not, teachers are not allowed to speak out about what is going on in their schools, any issues happening in their schools, none of that. So I've worked at quite a few districts, a handful of them, we could say. And at each one of these, you sign something saying that you cannot speak out publicly about anything happening in the school, any issues, any opinions, any students, any of that. So you sign that and you agree to that. Most people don't pay attention to that. And a lot of times maybe they do post things and then they get reprimanded really quickly for that. They are actually always looking at social medias, all of these things for teachers. They actually will even scrutinize your social medias and things like that for posting things that is, they don't agree with, because you're supposed to sort of be that role model for children. So they do kind of look at all that. Well, throughout all those years, coming home, I vented to my husband most of every night of some of the things that were happening, especially some of the most outrageous things. And the kind of person that he is, he likes to get issues solved. So he went out there and he shared these stories. Of course, I didn't know that he was doing this. Come to find out, he had shared these stories with the school board, online on social media, how you're not supposed to, and basically had gotten a whole town involved in sharing their stories, or horror stories really, of what has been going on in one particular school district there. So, and this isn't particular just to that school district. I've seen these sorts of things occur across the board, but this was a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more shocking, I guess. Anyhow, he posted that, and instantly it was traced back to me. And so all of that, that's how they handle things. They don't let anyone speak out about these things. They don't let students, no one speak out of about these things. So it's a lot of real hush hush things. Even like being involved in sports, any of these things, you're not allowed to post a lot of these things online, what happens or whatever, any of these things. Whether you're the parent or student, you can get in real serious trouble and not be able to participate in these schools for doing these things. So now that I don't work at any of these schools, I can openly speak up. And you see, you don't realize the freedoms that you give away by working for a lot of these institutions. You literally can't even speak up about injustices happening. You can't even speak up about actual problems happening. In some cases, abuse. That was not my case, but some schools are under such control from administration and just different things that there is no way to speak out about anything. Teachers themselves are being abused in all kinds of ways. Anyhow, you can't speak out about these things when you work at these places. Same goes for nonprofits. I work for those, and they're very much the same. You can't do that. So you can't even really be yourself. Let's say you want to post a picture of yourself in a bikini at the beach. No, you can't do that. As a teacher, as a social worker, these sorts of things, you would think that nowadays you could, but if you work at these places, you can't. If you don't work at these places, if you work for yourself, then you certainly can. You could be like, do whatever you want. So you actually lose a lot of freedoms working for people, especially organizations, government agencies, things like that, because they want it their way. And even if they're doing it wrong, they don't care. So the real expert at a school is the teacher. The teacher has gone to school to learn how to teach children. Not just that, it is an innate gift that one has to want to teach. And it starts early on. I can remember for myself, I like to get my little stuffed animals and my little dolls and sit them around me. And I would pretend that I was teaching them school. And, I learned how to be taught through my parents. My parents were teachers. My dad was a teacher. My mom taught me things as if you would learn in school, flashcards, all of that. So I learned that, and I taught that to my stuffed animals and all that prior to ever even going to school. That was very natural. So that happens for people that naturally like to teach. We like to kind of gather up that group and teach them things and pretend and have that. So that has always been a passion of mine. Interestingly enough, everyone, as far as we can go back on my dad's side of the family, has been an educator of some kind, even the women. So it has been quite interesting. We have all been educators on that side of the family, educators in the school system, and also in the religious sense, in spirituality and stuff. So this has kind of been an evolution of education in the public school system for me, education evolving out of the public school system into more of a broad range, where now I teach more on psychology, spirituality, more broad range. So I have taken everything that I have learned from working at all these places and incorporated it to what I do now. So it wasn't a total waste of time. Nothing ever is. Everywhere we are at in each moment is perfect, and that is where we should be at any point. But sometimes these situations are really for us to learn how we want to do it our way. So sometimes we get put in these situations where we're working for others. We all have to kind of start somewhere, don't we? So when we're working at these places, we can kind of see the errors and the problems there, because one day, if we truly complete our circle, we will be teaching others, if that is truly your passion. You will be teaching others whatever it is that you're passionate about. That will be the completion of your circle. So all of that to say that I've learned quite a bit from all of these places, and I'm not going to say that those experiences weren't any good. They were good, but they're not good to stay in or to allow these things to continue this long. So my first real teaching job that I had was at a Head Start center. This was before I had my certification or anything to go work in a public school. So I had a psychology degree, and so I was able to work in a Head Start center as a behavioral therapist, or behavioral specialist, they called it. And so the behavioral specialist kind of looked into any behavior problems that the students had at school, kind of did observations, worked with teacher, student, parent, to kind of mediate that and kind of work with them so that the student could learn, the parent, everybody could get balanced and back to learning. So I did that for a year or two, working with autistic children specifically, and children with very, very severe behavioral issues, kids that would throw chairs, hurt the teachers, hurt other children, those sorts of kids. So I did that for a while. And then at one time they had an opening for a teacher that she apparently had left or had a baby and hadn't come back or something. And so they had this opening, and really they couldn't find anybody to be the teacher. Now you had to have a certain level of qualifications and things to teach. So I wasn't doing a whole lot of that time, and I said, okay, I will give it a try. I was seeing these little smiling faces come in every day, and I thought to myself, you know what, I can do this. Let me do this. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I decided to go ahead and take that class. So the class had already gotten started. They had either a sub or that other teacher teaching for like a month or two. And so I had to basically come in, and it was a mess. They hadn't learned the rules, none of that. So I was coming in pretty much fresh. And no one had taught me how to teach at all, like nothing. And so it was an assistant there with me, and we went into the room, and she was supposed to be teaching that day, and I was supposed to be watching her. But it didn't happen that way because there was a lot of cleaning. There was a lot of other issues going on. So she just trusted that I knew what I was doing because I had worked in the center before. She had seen me be very competent with other things, working with one student at a time. But so she stepped back to go do her things, and I just had to go into teaching. And that day I really literally taught the whole day. I really didn't do much observing at all. And it was hectic and it was going so fast and everything was happening. But these kids were 4 or 5 years old and there was a multitude of books and different things. And eventually I learned. And so that first year, the students weren't the only ones learning. I learned, but it went all very well because I had, like I say, this kind of natural ability to organize, to kind of manage the classrooms in ways that were really fun and exciting for the kids. And even though they would get rowdy and stuff, I had a lot of tricks in my bag. So, so I was able to do that. And every year I got a little better and things went a little smoother. Eventually I decided that, you know what, I'm kind of good at this and I do like this and I'm going to go try it in the public school system. You know, why not? I can get paid more and, you know, have more of a career there. So I went ahead and went and got my my alternative teacher certification. I went to go work at one school and basically it was a mess, okay? It was a mess in a lot of different ways, okay? For one, they don't have hardly any kind of teaching like they do back in the day. I was very surprised to learn that the majority of schooling now occurs on Chromebooks, like on actual little laptop sort of things. And you'll probably already know this, but I hadn't been aware of this. I really thought that my daughter was learning from textbooks and all of these things. Well, that's not the case. So, and me working at Head Start, that was little kids, so they weren't on computers yet. So I was totally unaware of this. And they were having teachers to create like escape rooms online, websites online. You had to create almost all of the assignments and things for your students. These things weren't already made. So you literally had to kind of be this kind of IT or website designer to do some of these things that really they wanted you to do, they required you to do. There was no textbooks at all, like no textbooks, no curriculums, and you had to come up with these lesson plans and groups. And I'm telling you, it was just bogus. These do not compare to lesson plans that we even had at Head Start. These things were bogus things that people were just creating out of nowhere because there is no lesson plan now. There is no curriculum. There is nothing that has any kind of structure to it. And so I'm not someone that loves structure. Okay, so you know, it's not that I am wanting to go to structure at all, but this is totally really ridiculous. They don't have anything in place for teachers. It's a total free-for-all. They really didn't have anything set up for the first couple weeks. Eventually they just had us sending kids down to the lunchroom and they were just sitting in the lunchroom coloring pages because there was nothing for these kids to do. There was no pencils, nothing in the school. I had to, like most teachers talk about, go buy my own supplies for all these students. Out of half my class, maybe half of them actually brought their supplies. The other ones did not. There was no funding, no money for anything for walls or anywhere at any school I ever worked at. I had to purchase everything, and I usually spent about $500 every year at the beginning of the year. I didn't get any of that money back at all. Every holiday, all of that stuff, I bought them their little treats, all this stuff. None of this was ever provided at the schools. So if you have a good teacher who's doing all these things with your kids, sending all these things, really be appreciative, because I'm telling you, the way that schools are set up now are totally different. If you're in the United States and you go to a newer school, go tour that school. I know they say that parents aren't allowed back there or whatever. Go and tour that school. You have a right to. They actually do not allow in Houston any decorations on the walls at all. The classrooms have to be totally bare and they have to be gray walls. Like, it literally looks like a prison. You walk down these hallways, and I know this because I worked there. I not only worked at that school, I worked at many schools because I also spoke at schools. I spoke and taught parenting classes to teachers, behavior to teachers. I taught behavior and parenting classes to parents after school. So I went to many schools in Houston. And when I talk about many schools, I've gone to about 20 schools in Houston. Houston is a very big school district. And all of these schools were like this. Metal detectors in the majority of these schools. Like, you have to walk through them. They not only treat the students like criminals before even like treating them kindly, they treat people like myself, professionals that were coming to speak to their teachers, to their parents. They treated me like a criminal. Even though I was dressed professionally, everything, they want to look at my bag, go through this thing. all of these things. You know, of course you have to get a badge and all of this stuff, but it's too much. So it's a whole nother environment. It doesn't feel like a home. When I grew up, I went to a school that felt very homey. It was a brick school. And, you know, everybody in the neighborhood, everything went to that school. That school, you know, all the teachers had their bulletins out front of their classrooms with the kids' work and just decorations. And you walked in and the teachers had their rooms decorated how they wanted it decorated. Sometimes they had pets. Sometimes they might have a couch in there. They would read to us. They would take us outside. My school had a garden outside. They had a teacher that would sing and play the guitar, and every like Friday, every so often, like on a Friday, if you had met certain goals and things, you were part of a party that would go on, and it was very fun. And every Halloween, everything, there was always a celebration. It wasn't limited like it is now. And so that's not how it is now. It's literally like you're treated like a criminal, whether you're the student, the teacher, or a visitor. You're treated as a criminal when you walk in, and you're giving the bare minimum. There is no soaps in the school. There is no toilet papers in the school. Part of the reasons that people were complaining in the town that I lived is literally every teacher had to buy their own toilet paper. And at this time, because it was near that time of COVID, their hand sanitizers. They had to buy that and the soap, everything. They had to buy everything. So they weren't even providing toilet paper for these kids to clean themselves with. So these are the things that are happening in the schools where, you know, you're sending your tax dollars and all of these things. That's why I say, go and examine these schools. Talk to your children. What is happening there? You know, how is everything going? You know, do y'all have supplies at school? Asking these things, because my experience has not been that way. And it hasn't only been in my town. Like I say, I covered all of the Houston ISD system, teaching teachers and parents and stuff. And I had reign of the school. So I've walked these hallways. I've seen it. And if any of y'all want to, you can do that for yourselves. So these are not schools that I would ever send my child to. And I'm not trying to judge them. And if you do send your child to them because that's all you have, then that is all you have. And I am sorry that, you know, things are the way that they are. So I'm going to kind of paint for you different perspectives and different alternatives. So not everybody can homeschool their kids. Not everybody can take care of their kids and raise them and give them the time when they have to be at work. You know, we are now a 2-income family, or 2-income country, I guess you could call it. Both parents in the United States basically have to work in order for people to have what they have now. That wasn't the case always. And so it is that way now. And because of that, you don't see very many parents actually teaching their own children at home. I had the unique ability to be able to teach my daughter for like preschool and stuff like that, even though she still went to like a school and all of that a part of the time while I worked. I was able to do these things even though I worked. You can still carve out time to create a curriculum, to work with your child after school, on weekends, when you have the time. So one of the things that I really recommend is the Montessori education system, okay? The Montessori. Montessori is an education style that was created by Maria Montessori. Maria Montessori took in children that, from the orphanage, children that didn't have parents. And they didn't have parents, so she had to teach them to be independent. So there's a lot of teaching them to be independent, also a lot of independence in their learning, meaning that they get free reign of the classroom and they get to go around, and if they want to go learn in the science section, then they go learn in the science section. If they want to go learn in math, they go learn in math, but they get to choose. No one's telling them, hey, Johnny, you have to go do this worksheet in math, and until you finish that, you can't go do anything else. It's not like that. You're free. You can walk around the classroom. No one's telling you to sit a certain way. There's rugs you can pull out. You can sit in a chair. You decide. You have that sovereignty in a Montessori classroom. And the teacher, when she sees you engaged in, let's say, science or math or whatever activity she's placed out, she'll have lots of activities placed out for the day, and she sees that that child is very much engaged in that, then the teacher goes and joins the child in that passion, in that excitement of learning, and teaches him a little further, teaches him a little bit more, expands the learning. So uses each moment as a teachable moment when the child's actually engaged, actually passionate about something. And you see, that's a totally different approach to learning than sit in this wooden chair with this wooden desk for 8 hours and do what I say. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. By the time I left teaching here recently, I have now adopted a new way of allowing students to walk around the classroom, to not have to ask if they get up or not. I used to be a very rigid sort of teacher, and that does work when you are trying to manage your classroom and things. But as you evolve as a teacher and you understand the dynamics and the students and things like that, it is like an ecosystem. You have to understand all parts. Then you can allow some of these things. And so I would allow all of this sort of like a Montessori classroom. And it worked much better, much better. And we got to really expand in a lot more ways. And when I was working in the Head Start centers, they were actually very much like Montessori's, believe it or not. So I was actually very happy working there. They have a model where they do have some sit down time. I don't know what it's like now. It's been a few years since I've worked there. Well, it's been quite a few years now, but they have time where the students walk around, they have free reign of the classroom, and they have centers. They can go from one place to another. No one tells them where to go. They decide. When it's time to eat, they sit down and have lunch and breakfast with their teacher, and they eat amongst each other in a family style. They pour one pitcher, everything comes in one bowl, you take it around, that sort of thing. We all clean up. Each student has a job. It's a very Montessori, like the students do the cleaning there as well. It's not just the assistant or something like that. There's a garden where we grow vegetables. They grow vegetables outside. They do a lot of family events. So I'm a big proponent of Head Start, but definitely look into it. Observe these places before you put your children in these places, because you never know how these daycare centers, schools, any of this is run, okay? But I'm a big proponent for Montessori education. So look into that if you're interested in a more expansive, evolving sort of way of education. It would be Montessori. The other kind of education style that I really enjoy is called Waldorf. And this is an education style that originated in Germany. And so they focus more on the imagination of the child, because imagination is something that we have to really see its power. We have to really be connected to it. And so many people don't even care about stuff like that. So it's the first 7 years of education is just focusing on education of the imagination, expansion of imagination. Lots of imaginative play with the simplest of items, like a stick, like a piece of silk. And with that, you create, your costume or whatever, and you create stories and lots of myths and things like that. All of these things are playing into what's happening in our reality, my friends. So this is what they focus on with the children, and it's actually everything, right? And so they don't even focus on math or science or any of that stuff, even writing, until 7 years of age. Now, if the child wants to, they can. But it's not something that, they push on them or have for them, or none of that. If the child begins counting, doing different stuff, of course. But it's more about imagination, play, learning things like rituals, routines, a lot of that. So that's called Waldorf education. So for a younger education styles, that is what I prefer, okay? And now what we're seeing now with people actually not really opting so much going to university. It used to be that everybody, was finishing high school, and then you'd go get a job. And then after that, it was you had to go to college and get a bachelor's degree. And after that, it was like you had to go to college and get a master's degree. Well, now we're seeing the whole system crumbling apart. We're seeing that people don't even want to go to school. They're saying, that they don't need it, that they're able to do and earn and do the things that they want to do other ways. And we're really seeing that is happening. So we're really seeing education evolving into different ways. I've even had education styles where I was teaching certain curriculums at social work centers. And so I was teaching a very rigid sort of parenting style to parents for a while, and using a curriculum that was decades old from Australia. And now we're kind of working on, and this organization is working on really working with real life people, with creators, people that are on creating content on YouTube and things like that, to create these methods and parenting groups for parents that actually want to engage, because most of these parents don't want to go to, you know, some social service agency and sit in a classroom and learn from somebody that hasn't had children in 20 years in using some curriculum that's decades old from Australia. You know, that's not something people want to learn. They want to learn from an actual person, even if it were virtually, who is currently passionate about it, is currently putting out new material, you know, about this. Because the children that we're seeing now and everything that we're seeing, it's not that they're different. It's not that we're just totally different beings. It's that it's a different world. There's different things happening. We have technology now. There's so many different things. So parenting, of course, is going to be different and evolving. So where many years ago you would spank your child or something like that, the most effective method I found now with parenting is literally taking away electronic devices. It's something simple like that, like they're going to lose their phone or something. So that wouldn't have been in a parenting book 20 years ago, you know? So we have to get with the times and evolve our education, evolve everything. If you're still looking at only things of the past, that's okay, but you got to integrate it a little bit more here with what's coming up. So although I love Montessori, love Waldorf education, I wouldn't say that's the only way. We do have to integrate and bring everything here and kind of evolve that, which is what I've kind of been doing in a parenting kind of thing I've been doing. And these are just passions and things of mine that I've kind of been evolving, but just kind of working with what is parenting, what is it evolving to, all of these things. And so this is just one of the interests of mine. If you have any insights about parenting, any insights about where education is going, or you know, you've seen anything for yourself, comment down below, start a discussion with me. I'd love to know what's going on your side of the world, wherever you live. Comment down below where you live. I love hearing where everybody is from. I'm always so excited to hear that, you know, you're from Ireland or something like that, or even that you're from Michigan. I'm like, wow, you know, that's so cool that we can connect this way. But this whole video is talking about why I left teaching. And so I mostly left teaching, I'm going to tell you, because it's not what it's not what it's supposed to be anymore. It's literally run like a business, and it's so sad that these schools, especially where I live, are just these gray kind of jail cells with these kind of robotic situations where everybody is just on these computers, and the teachers aren't the teachers or the experts anymore. They can't create their own plans. They can't be the creator. See, actually, teachers are actually very creative beings. We have a lot of things in our imaginations. We're always thinking of ways to teach people, to show people. We get excited when someone gets excited about a certain topic, and we want to expand it more for them or show them more of what they maybe haven't seen. But when you put a teacher that has that spark and that sort of thing into a classroom, then tell her you can't put anything on these walls, you can't put anything on the walls outside, you can't bring any plants into this classroom, you can't have any pets in here, no music, no nothing. You can just have these laptops, and each child can have them with their earpods in, and you just sit in this desk and create you know, web design stuff for these kids to sit here on these tablets and create quizzes or whatever they're doing. That's not conducive for anyone. So for that reason, I am not going to be participating in the public school system if that is the way that they are going, and that is the way they are going where I live, unfortunately. If you do have the ability to have other education styles, like maybe there's charter schools in your area, maybe you can homeschool, maybe you've always thought about it but you're scared, don't let anything stop you. These are just a few years of your children's lives, and they're very, very special and important, and they go by fast. And so decide what you think is the best for your child. Don't feel like you're caged into the box of, I have to send my child to this gray, sad school. No, you don't. No, you don't. You have options, even where you don't see options. Create them in your imagination. Imagine where you could go, what school could pop up, what could happen, what ways you could even enrich the education. Maybe your child's already going to that school and you can't really get them out. They're already in that school. Like I said, you can always enrich that education with doing things after school, buying after school curriculums. That was one thing I also liked to do when my daughter was little, like after school curriculum. I think I even created something like that. And it was even where parents could come together and like make bread together, make zucchini bread together with their kids, bake it, and then eat it and go home. So these are the cool things that you can do. Think about this. If you have children, if you are a parent, these are the sorts of things that you can do. Create a little community, a little group of moms that does these sorts of things, that is interested in this stuff. You know, we don't have to conform to the junk that they're serving us. And, you know, it may work for some people. It may not be junk across the board. But for those of us that have experienced a taste of life that is a little bit more expansive, gray walls isn't going to cut it, my friend. So that's why I'm not going to be teaching anymore in that capacity. But you see, teaching is always evolving and expanding. And there are so many educators you wouldn't believe who haven't ever gone to school for education. But there are so many people on YouTube that have courses and education, all kinds of stuff that they are experts on, that they were passionate about, so passionate about that they created courses about and that they get on here and talk about. So there is no shortage of education. It's everywhere. It's just whatever you want to connect with, whatever you want to invest in. And, you know, do you want to just go to the free thing, or would you like to invest in something that's actually going to expand you? That's actually going to be something more aligned with your heart or more in your space. Don't be afraid to shell out a little bit of money for yourself. When you invest in yourself, that pays dividends. And I'm not even lying. That sort of thing will grow you so much more, so much more. And it's really a portal. It's sort of like a step we have to take that seems scary, but once we take it, it's like all of a sudden we get like this growth spurt. Just in doing that, in actually taking that leap, making that decision, signing up for that course. So there's so much out there right now, and one of the things that I have to offer is School of Scarlet, and right now what I'm doing is actually pretty much free, so you can just email me at schoolofscarlet@gmail.com. I'm doing a lot of live sessions because I like to meet now in group sessions and just do question and answer. Those are totally free. And I do have a ton of education and videos for free on this channel. I have more than 300 videos that y'all can go back and watch, and they are very, very good. So just because, you know, I made them a few months ago or last year, don't even worry about when they were made. If you feel it's called for you, that video is meant for you today energetically. So there is so much education out there, guys, and YouTube is one of those places that you can go. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, if you found it helpful, please share it with others. Give me a like, a comment, something to share, and support my channel down below. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all.